Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for tuning into this video where we calculate a percentage or fraction of an amount. So if it's a percentage of an amount, you just change the percent to a fraction and then you times the fraction by the amount. Let's look at some examples. So let's say I want to find 30% of 60. So 30% is the same as 30 over 100. That's what percent means, per 100 or over 100. So of means times. So this is just 30 over 100 times 60. So 60 is the same as 60 over 1. So if I was doing this without a calculator, I'd write it like this. So now I look for common factors to make this easier. So 30 over 100 is 3 over 10. So this is really saying 3/10 of 60. Now 10 goes into itself once and goes into 60 6 times. You can cancel anything on the bottom with anything on the top as long as they have a common factor. So this way I did it just makes it easier. So instead of having to do 30 times 60 in my head, I now just have to do 3 times 6, which is 18, and 1 times 1, which is 1. So this is just 18. Okay, so remember, when you are multiplying a fraction by a whole number, you write that whole number over 1, you just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. Cancelling, like I did here, can just make that calculation, that multiplication, a little easier. Let's look at another example. So let's calculate 28% of $125. I'm going to do this exactly the same way I just did the previous question. So 28% means 28 hundredths, 28 over 100, so times that by 125. Remember, when you're timesing a fraction by a whole number, write the whole number over 1. So now I have to do 28 times 125 over 100 times 1. 28 times 125, not an easy thing to do, it would take me a while. So what I might do is I might cancel some common factors. So 28 and 100 are both divisible by 4. So 4 goes into 28 7 times, it goes into 125 times. I can cancel again. 25 goes into itself once and goes into 125 5 times. Now this is so much easier. I'm just doing 7 times 5. Much easier is that than 28 times 125. So 7 times 5 is 35, 1 times 1 is 1. So this is just 35. Because the original thing was in dollars, this will be $35. So let's now do a slightly harder example. So let's do 2.5% of 1600. So please don't freak out because there's a 2.5 because this is a decimal. I'm not going to do this any differently. So I'm going to write the percent over 100. So this is 2.5 over 100 times 1600 over 1. So once again, I'm going to try and cancel. So 2.5 and 100, they do sort of have a common factor. But what will be easier is if I cancel the 100 and 1600. 100 goes into itself once and goes into 1600 16 times. I can just cross off those two zeros like that. So now I'm left with 2.5 times 16, which you can probably do in your head. 2 times 16 is 32. Half of 16 is 8. 32 plus 8 is 40. This will be $40, and we're done. So now let's look at some examples involving fractions of a quantity. So let's now calculate 3/5 of $72. You might be relieved to know fraction of a quantity is easier because we don't have to do this first step and change it to a fraction. It's already a fraction. So what we're going to do is calculate this as 3/5 times $72. And remember, whole number, write it over 1. So now this one I can't actually cancel. So this one's a bit harder because I can't cancel. But you can do 3 times 72. You know, if you need to, do the 3 times 72. You know, 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 7 is 210, like that. Okay? So I get 3 times 72 is 216. 5 times 1 is 5. So now I have to do 216 divided by 5. Again, if you're not sure how to do it, just go 5 into 216. So 5 doesn't go into 2. How many times 5 go into 21? Goes in 4 times. Remainder 1. How many times does 5 go into 16? It goes 3. Remainder 1. So then what we can do is put a 0.0 there, put the remainder there. How many times does 5 go into 10? It goes twice. Decimal point above decimal point. So this is $43.20. Okay? Now I know that this was harder, and I know that I went through this a bit quicker, but you should already know how to do long multiplication and short division to help you with that. All right, let's look at one more example where we're finding a fraction of a quantity. So now we're going to find 13 tenths of 90. Note, 13 tenths is the same as 130%. This question is the same as finding 130% of 90. So I've already got the fraction. All I need to do is times that fraction by 90 because of means times. And whole number, you make it a whole number over 1. So now I need to do 13 times 90 over 10 times 1. 13 times 9 is pretty hard, but fortunately here I can cancel. 10 goes into itself once, goes into 99 times. So this is just 13 times 9, which you should be able to do and get 117. It's 117 over 1, but of course I can just write that as 117. All right, let's now do a quick worded problem. So let's do this question here. Class of 40 students, 4/5 of them have blue eyes. Of those with blue eyes, 25% of them have blonde hair. How many students have blue eyes and blonde hair? So now let's first calculate the number of students that have blue eyes. So that's 4/5 of the class. It's 4/5 of 40. And we know that that means 4/5 times 40. Whole number, write it over 1. So now we could do 4 times 40 and 5 times 1, or we might cancel. 5 goes into itself once, goes into 48 times. So 4 times 8, doing the tops, is 32. 1 times 1 is 1. That means there are 32 students in this class with blue eyes. So the question says that of these 32, 25% of them have blonde hair. So of the people with blue eyes, the people that also have blonde hair, I should write also have blonde hair. So that is 25% of 32. So you know that we make the percentage into a fraction and then times by the quantity. So you should know 25 over 100 equals a quarter. So this is a quarter of 32. 25% equals a quarter, so 25% of something is the same as a quarter of that. So 4 goes into itself once, goes into 32 8 times. So the final answer here is 8. So there are 32 students with blue eyes, and of those 32 students with blue eyes, 8 of them also have blonde hair. So there are 8 students in the class that have blue eyes and also blonde hair. All right, thank you so much for tuning into this video. This has been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.